Welcome to Just Break Up, the podcast about love, heartbreak, and all the relationship advice you don't want to hear. My name is Sierra DeMulder.
And I'm Sam Blackwell. And today we're going to answer a letter from somebody who is crying over mac and cheese. But before we begin, we just want to give you our Surgeon General's warning, which is that Sierra and I are not licensed mental health practitioners.
We are not. We are not professionals. We are not trained in any of this. We are as fucked up as all of you, if not more.
Probably.
I meant that in like a humanizing way, not like a calling out.
You're all fucked up.
Yeah, no, more like, like we are the world.
We are the world. We are the children. Absolutely.
So please take our advice as you see fit. We're only here to offer our humble musings to hopefully shed some understanding and maybe some laughs about the incredibly rewarding but mostly confusing experience that is love. But it's Monday, so before we dive into today's letter, we are going to do a quick check-in topic. Sam?
Okay, so I was thinking about relationship goals because we recently had an incident where we had to have like a big thing done on our house, which like cost a stupid amount of money. And like we have money in savings to like pay for this. And I was thinking about this because I was like, sometimes I think about like people have relationship goals, right? Where they're like, we want to do this and this and this. And like, we don't have that. And I was thinking about this specifically because like, if we had like relationship goals, like maybe this would have like impacted our ability to start a family or like go on all those trips that we wanted to, or move to a different state or whatever. But it like doesn't, I mean, it affects us obviously, right? Because it's like money out the door. But like it's the thing that is most affecting is that like, it's okay, cool. We just have to like save up more to like get back to where we were, because that's what savings accounts are for.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I was thinking about it because sometimes our letter writers write in about like, yeah, we have the same relationship goals. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Yeah, you
as somebody who's like generally bad at having long-term goals,
yeah.
I just like kind of like go with what's happening in the most immediate sense, right?
And this is another reason why you shouldn't take our advice.
Absolutely. 100%. It's not like we like had to pay for like a brand new kitchen that we had like meticulously planned for, right? It was like, no, our house had hail damage, right? Like, and it was like, okay, so cool, we got to fix this.
The most pathetic of all roof damages.
100%. It's so boring. And I was thinking about it too, because I was also like, oh God, our insurance premium's going to go up because of this. Because, like if you get in a car accident and have to like use your car insurance, your premiums go up. And then I was like, no, because we didn't do anything wrong. Our house was just sitting where it is.
And what was it wearing when it got hit by a hail? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Let's victim blame it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So you're thinking about goals, relationship goals. And
I just am like, do you have them? Should I have them? Like, I'm in like this existential spiral about it. And I'm like,
so
are we
cute.
Doing relationships wrong because we don't have like
existentially spiraling, Sam?
Absolutely.
Yes, you are doing it wrong. No, just kidding.
Perfect. That's exactly what I needed to hear.
Do we have relationship goals? I think that, earlier when we were like shooting the shit about this check-in topic, I was like, I don't really know if we have goals. And you were like, you kind of have to, or you had to, because like, we're a queer couple and my wife and I have a toddler and we had to do very specific things.
Like a lot of like time and money and effort. Yeah.
Yes, to have a baby. And so you're right. We did have relationship goals. And I do think we have them now. But before I share my goals and the way we approach them, I will say, as you were talking, I think I realized you might be conflating relationship goals, rightfully so, like because this is how they're presented, with like relationship escalator markers. Do you know what I mean?
That's
because you and your husband don't want to have children and you've already bought this house, like I think that we often conflate the idea of our shared relationship goals with these big stepping stones that we traditionally see people go on in their life, hypothetically,
Yeah, for sure.
And honestly, me too, when I think about relationship goals, when I look at other people, I'll be like, do you guys want to get married one day? Like, what do you want to do with your life? I think the shortcut conversation is like, do you want to have kids? Like, where do you guys want to live? Do you guys want to travel or whatever? Not like, what are you doing this year to stabilize your anxiety? And what do you do? What's your short-term goal? Like, I see that you have like adult Legos on your shelf. Like, are you really, is one of your goals like more mindful Lego play?
I love that. And also, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so I think maybe let's just have this musing conversation about relationship goals with that in mind, that I think we approach them from this big macro worldview that's often imprinting this relationship escalator on us, even if we don't want it,
Yeah. And I think it's also tied to like capitalism and like white supremacy culture, where like progress is more and bigger.
And more
right?
and bigger. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So it's like, I think probably what is actually true is that like Peter and I have achieved a lot of our relationship goals, which was like to get married and like buy a home together and like live in a place where we're near our friends and family and like have enough money to be able to like do things that we want to do, right? Like Peter wants to like buy records, right? Like that, like I want to be able to like buy a Lego set and do that for myself, or like go on a trip and visit people, right? Like, and like so much of that is like available to us in our current state, but it feels like because of this like capitalist, like you should be planning for your next house, right? Like you should be planning for what your next big career move is going to be, right? Like you should be thinking about like where you're going to retire or whatever. That it's like, what if I'm just happy living in the thing that I have and doing the things that I'm doing?
The capitalism aspect of it, because when I think about relationship goals, it's like, what are you building together? What's your generational wealth? Fucking literally nothing. Or what are your goals together? How are you setting up your life so that you can have luxury? You know what I mean? I'm like reading between the lines on a lot of the context, but I also think, when I'm asking you interpersonally, like in our friendship, like what are your relationship goals? You can tell me like as a familiar, vulnerable friend, you can be like, oh, well, we're really working on trying to find rest more and trying to find.
It's like we're trying to help
ease.
Peter get through the school year.
Yeah.
We're looking till June 7th, and then we'll figure out what happens next.
Yeah. And I also think about like why we talk about relationship goals in the context of like money and growth and that escalator. I think it's also because we have traditionally thought about partnership as like this coming together of resources.
For sure, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
Literally
and how
what
are
it was
you building?
for
Exactly.
Millennia. Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas like I think we can shift the understanding of relationship goals to I am going to work on not internalizing other people's needs more, and my wife is going to work on supporting me in that. No, just kidding. But, I mean, not kidding. But, like, I think that my wife and I do have relationship goals that align with the traditional understanding of relationship goals, particularly because I'm self-employed and we have to strategize about how I'm going to provide for our family in the coming years. So like we have a goal of eventually paying off our house and then selling it or renting it or something. I don't know. But, like thinking about the future in a strategic team work sort of way. Like, I think I like that about relationship goals. And I truthfully, I loved and found a lot of peace and empowerment in the fact that when Willow and I were dating and courting each other, we were both at a place where we really saw the vision of getting married and eventually having a family, and then we could make decisions together in the direction of that. I think that it's, I think this is a good practice to divorce our understanding of relationship goals away from the escalator, but it also can be a part of that escalator if that's what you authentically want. I will say, like, I do think that if you have a goal in your life or like a desire in your life, whether it's more downtime, financial ease, or it's, I don't know, fucking property or whatever. You have, or having a child, you have to point your body and your energy in the direction of that. And when you're in a partnership, oftentimes that person has to be pointed in the direction of that as well, or else there's resistance or friction or whatever. Yeah.
I am in this like place where, like, I feel like I have always been, and I think I've talked about this on the podcast, where it's like, I have felt like I should be more ambitious
yes.
in lots of different ways. Because I think this was kind of like drilled in me by my dad and also probably by other people in my life, that like I should have a plan and I should be trying to work for it always. And that like not doing that is like squandering my gifts or whatever. And I think that that's like part of it is that like, I think that Peter and I have achieved a lot of our relationship goals, which is like I said, like we wanted a place like, and so much of it is like, I just want to spend time being grateful for the fact that we have a home, right? Like, and for the fact that like we can replace our roof and not financially devastate us, right? Like, or that we live near our friends and family and get to spend like lots of meaningful time with them. And like, we have another bedroom where when Sierra comes and stays, like she can stay in it. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Right. And so like,
it's like a tiny hotel.
Like, how do we balance the idea of like, yeah, like it's okay to have goals, right? Like it's okay to like want to move your relationship in a particular direction, but also like, how do we not lose sight of gratitude for the things that we have? And how do we disrupt the like capitalist bullshit of like everything needs to be more and bigger and better, and you like deserve more and bigger than better all the time, like,
yeah. Honestly, these are my favorite style of check-in topics. It reminds me a lot of our Patreon episodes where like we don't really have like a bullet pointed advice and more just get to
just a lot of questions.
Figure it out.
Yeah, for sure.
Aloud. Yeah, I think that's all really good. Maybe we'll talk more about this on a Patreon because I feel like I have more things to say. But lest we not forget our letter writer.
Yes, absolutely. We should definitely get into today's letter.
Okay.
This is the end of Sam's existential crisis, and now we're moving on to other people's existential crises.
Keep it. Actually, no, you're right. We need to pause it because this existential crisis is quite adorable.
It is, absolutely.
All right. This letter is coming to us from Food Lover, whose pronouns are she, her, who's writing to us from the gluten-free section of the pasta aisle. Hello, friends. Love the podcast. I'm writing in with something that upsets me in my relationship, and I'm not sure why. I, 24 female, started dating my boyfriend, 25 male, while we were both living abroad. We broke up when we moved back to our home countries, but got back together to try long distance about 4 months ago. We're also planning to move back to the country where we met within the next 6 months. While it helps to give context to my issue is not actually about being long distance. My boyfriend is coming to visit me in about a week, and I'm super excited. Because I'm so excited, I really want to prepare as much as possible by cleaning, buying food, etc. My boyfriend has celiac and he's vegan, so I've been trying to come up with some ideas of things he can eat. Last time I went to the grocery store, I bought a box of gluten-free vegan mac and cheese because I thought it would be fun to try, especially because mac and cheese is such a typically American food. I mentioned it to him on the phone today, and he said he would try it, but that he probably wouldn't eat much of it because he assumed it contained some other ingredients that he's trying to avoid because of a health condition. He was really nice in how he said it, so it shouldn't have been a big deal, but I felt so upset. I didn't want to admit how I felt because I didn't want him to think that I wasn't supporting his decision about what he puts in his body. So I tried to be as natural as I could for the rest of the call, but I started crying as soon as we got off the phone. Clearly, the mac and cheese wasn't what was really upsetting me, but I'm having a hard time figuring out what it exactly was. When I asked if there's anything he would like me to buy before he arrives, he told me he won't be eating any sugar. That made me feel even worse, especially because he'll be here for my birthday, and I was already researching vegan, gluten-free cakes. I don't feel any resentment towards him or his dietary restrictions, but I feel really sad. I think it's probably because I feel like I can't show him how I feel about him in the ways that feel natural to me. it also makes me feel like an asshole that I'm upset about someone else's diet. So I guess I'm wondering if you had any advice how I can find this less upsetting. I want to enjoy being with him rather than being sad. I'm also worried that when he's here, I won't be able to hide how I feel. Do you have any suggestions about how I can handle it if I do find myself in a situation where I have to explain how I'm feeling, i.e. I start crying? I don't want it to come off as selfish. Thank you for all that you do.
All right, food lover. Thank you so much for writing. I'm sorry that this is upsetting you. I think that Sierra and I, when we were talking about this letter, we're both like, yeah, I can totally understand why you would be crying over this because it feels very understandable in lots of different ways. And I think that Sierra and I have some ideas about why this is upsetting you so much. And I think Sierra and I are also going to offer maybe some perspective shifts on how to hold some of these really complicated feelings that you're experiencing. And also, I just want to say that I'm sorry that I made that joke about you crying over mac and cheese at the beginning of the episode because it's deeply understandable.
I'm not sorry about it because I would cry too.
Yeah, no, because I would absolutely do it. I'd be holding the mac and cheese in my kitchen, just like weeping.
And let me tell you why. But first, we're going to take a quick break. All right, pals, welcome back. And to my darling letter writer, thank you so much for sharing this letter and trusting us with this question. I immediately was drawn to this letter, and I am going to hope that it's because we're kindred spirits, because like my whole advice hinges on what I'm reading in this letter, like what I relate to my own behaviors. So if you don't relate to any of this, do the thing that I tell you all to do, which is just fast forward to Sam's part.
I don't think that's going to help because I think that we're in alignment with how this is making both of us feel. Okay.
So this is what I saw in this letter. As I identify as somebody who, struggles with codependency. I struggle with conflict. I'm very triggered by conflict and very triggered by like disappointing people. And that's from my childhood or whatever. And how that manifests now is that I try to do everything that I can to be in alignment with the people that I love, right? Because I see me being in opposition to them or like me having different opinions than them, as unsafe or it's just, it activates my nervous system. You know what I mean? We make jokes a lot about the fact that, I had a plumber that have to come to my house during recording and like bang on a bunch of pipes. And it was like not a good time for me. And I couldn't tell him not to come because I was afraid he was going to be mad at me or disappointed with me. And it's like, I don't even know this plumber's fucking name. and I could not handle that. Obviously, this is a little different. This is your boyfriend. There's a lot of excitement and anticipation, which heightens this sense of like urgency and everything has to be perfect. And you did this thing that you thought was cute. And you have all this excitement, these visions for your birthday and for the time that he's visiting you. And you buy this mac and cheese and he's not that interested in it. And why I chose this letter is because even the most like level-headed, sane version of me would feel an immediate, like my heart would drop and I would panic that I was somehow not appealing to him or I'm doing something wrong or he's going to be annoyed that I offered him this mac and cheese and I'm obviously this is all hyperbolic. This is literally, it's literally my brain overreacting, But that's what I would think is like, okay, my bad. Like there's like a self-conscious part of me that would start panicking. Like, I don't know. It's the person in me that really wants to be in alignment with the person I love and be everything they want me to be, and what's happening here is that you did this thing that you were excited about and your boyfriend lovingly and understandably was like, oh, no, thanks. And our little traumatic brains, our little overreacting, insecure brains say, oh my God, strike one. This is the first thing that's going to make me unattractive to him. Or this is the first thing, oh my God, how do I rectify this? And then like moving forward to your birthday plans, like I'm about to turn 38 next month. And like, I still have to tell myself that it's okay that I want to do something and my partner doesn't. Like I have to tell myself that it's okay that I'm going to go to the second level of our house and she's going to stay downstairs, because I was really taught in my early understandings of love that love manifested in, in harmony, in doing the same things, being appeasable, it manifested in like really subtle codependency, which is the idea that we have to share the same birthday cake, And I'm here as your long distance friend over the internet or wherever we're listening to this, to tell you like, it's okay if you want to have a sugar-filled gluten, well, maybe not gluten, but like, it's okay if you want to have a birthday cake that your boyfriend doesn't share in. That's okay. I think he would really understand that and like not judge you. And that might sound really simple, but my little anxious brain would need to hear that it's okay for me to do that independent of him. And it's possible for him to still find me appealing, attractive, desirable, lovable, whatever,
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
I know for a fact that there's going to be people listening to this letter and are going to be like, wait a minute, the letter writers, Sam and Sierra would all cry over this mac and cheese.
Oh, I would cry over it, 100%.
But it's just my truth. And so hopefully the letter writer relates to that.
No, for sure. I agree with all of those things. And I also think for me, as somebody who had a parent who had mental health issues, is that like he was never able to express his needs, but I was always rewarded for being able to anticipate them, right? So like when I was able to like unlock the formula that was like, oh, this is what he's looking for, then it was like, oh, I love, right? Like, and I felt good and I felt capable and I felt all of the things that like filled me up, right? And so like the idea of, oh, I know this thing about my partner, right? Like he's not eating gluten, he is not eating sugar, whatever. And then like being like, okay, cool. Well, great. Here's the plan. Here's how I can anticipate those needs. Here's how he can arrive at my house.
Oh my God, yes.
And it'll be full of all of these delicious things that are also perfectly catered to every need that he has. And then for him to say, oh, this isn't actually the thing that I want or need would be devastating to me because I feel like I would have failed.
A childlike wound. That's
100%.
why, that's why we're crying over this spilled mac and cheese. It's a child wound. And Sam and I don't know what your specific wound is, but I fucking love the fact that you and I, Sam, are such different people. And also we would react to this in this, there's the same fear in this of like, oh my God, I'm not enough. Oh my God, I did something wrong. Like there's something here. And so Sam and I are also here to tell you, my beloved letter writer, like you're safe. You're okay. You don't need to be perfectly ready for your partner to come and visit you and to have him have a great time. He is also resilient and capable and has the ability to be vulnerable and to ask for help when he needs it. You don't have to anticipate every single need of him to be lovable, to be valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. And for me, I have had to learn, and I'm continuing to learn, that actually anticipating people's needs isn't love.
That
right?
is so funny because, again, you and I are so different, and we are so the same in this very small facet of our life. Oh, you mean anticipating my partner's every need will always backfire on me all the time?
100% It will. It will backfire on you 97% of the time, and that 3% of the time is not worth chasing. I'll tell you that. Right? So like I think that you did a great job of being like, okay, can you tell me like what I can get for you to make you feel special and seen? And also it's like up to him to be able to tell you like, these are the things that I need from you. And you can't beat yourself up for not anticipating something that you didn't know was happening, and B, that like, you don't, like, obviously you know that he's gluten-free and that he's vegan, but you don't know any of the other stuff that's happening here, right? And so, and actually one of the things that I think would be helpful is like you continuing to have these types of conversations with him where you say, instead of being like, oh, I'm going to like figure out the thing that's going to be so perfect and exciting to actually be like, what do you want me to buy for you? Right? Like, this is going to be my act of love for you. Like, give me a list, right? Do you have recipes that you would like for me to make, right? Like, all of the different ways that you can like, or like, are there websites, particular websites that you use to find recipes so that I can find one? Or, hey, I'm thinking about making this because I was looking at this. How does that sound to you? Instead of like doing the thing where we're sort of like trying to figure out and thinking we know exactly what our partner wants, because that's not actually a proof of like good partnership. I know that it feels like that because, at least for me, like it was a proof that I was a good child to my parent, was being able to anticipate and like guess at what my parent needed. But like, actually as a partner, it's not actually that helpful. Like, what's actually more helpful is if I'm like, Peter, I'm noticing that you're feeling this type of way, right? Or I'm noticing that this like need is happening. What can I do? Like, what would be helpful for you? What like, and like drawing that kind of conversation out. And so I think doing that would be great. And also I think you should be like, hey, guess what? It's my birthday. When you're here, I'm planning on having a cake. Is there a different dessert that I can get for you to make this feel special for you too? Right? Like, I think that those types of conversations are actually more constructive and actually make us, at least for me, make me feel better, because instead of like failing at anticipating, I'm instead like being proactive with somebody who's like an actual adult, as opposed to my dad, who could like communicate to me what they needed.
Yeah. And I'll add to this, like I love cooking for people. I love hosting. I love having the snacks on hand. I know this love language really well. And also, I have loved ones that are both gluten-free and vegan. And I know that there are wonderful recipes out there and also a ton of limitations, because like, what if they're not eating, I don't know, nightshade plants? And what if they're not eating sugar? You know, what I will just add from my personal life is one of my loved ones who has these restrictions in their diet one time confessed to me that sometimes it's just, it's actually more stressful to have the person try to accommodate them without their assistance, you know? Like it's easier for her to be like, oh, I'll just bring my own plate. Or, hey, can you make this specifically, instead of having the cook, the person doing all of this extra unclarified labor. Does that make sense? Like what Sam was describing was perfect. Like the idea of like, get a specific grocery list. That's the labor, instead of trying to do all the guesswork where it gets kind of sticky emotional sometimes. Does that make sense? My loved one was like, sometimes I just like when I am in control of it, because it makes them feel less like an accommodation. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Just so that's a very random, bizarrely articulated reframe, which is that you're not going to there's a chance that you're not disservicing him or like annoying him by putting his own dietary needs on his shoulders, right? Sometimes adults like me appreciate that. You know, I would rather like feed myself than to be fed. So that's a small reframe to offer you.
And I think it's important, as you're looking at this, to remind yourself that you're not crying about mac and cheese, right? You're crying about the fact that you tried to show this person love in a particular way, and it felt like he rejected it, right? And not because he rejected the love, but because he rejected the mac and cheese, right? Like you're in different planes of like meaning behind this. And so I think part of it is also reminding yourself, right? Like him not wanting to eat a whole thing of mac and cheese is not a reflection of my love. It's a reflection of the fact that he doesn't want to eat a whole thing of mac and cheese, right? And I would even you could even say this to him, right? Like, I'm trying to show you love by making sure that we have good food that you can eat in our house, and to be able to share in the process of cooking that together. How can we do this together, right? Like what sort of things can we try to make this work for both of us? And being honest about that. And so that it's not that like you're crying by yourself about the mac and cheese and he's like, all I did was reject the mac and cheese, which is like reasonable in both ways. But instead, we're talking about what is actually at play here, which is you want to take good care of him, right? And you want to show your love by doing these acts of service, by cooking for him, by holding space for him, by making your home feel like home for him. And to do that, you actually need to invite him into the process of making that actually happen for him, right? He needs to be an active participant because he has needs that you cannot anticipate. He has things that you can't just predict. He's going to need to be able to, and I don't mean this in a way that we need to put a burden on him. I mean this in a way that it's impossible to do on your own. And it's actually of better service to him to actually elicit what he wants and what he needs rather than just trying to pretend like without actually knowing.
Right, exactly. We know this is really tricky, and obviously it's more than just the mac and cheese. So pull up a chair, dig in, and invite him to the table. Okay?
For sure.
And good luck with your visit. We love you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for writing. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you would like more content from us, or if you would like access to our monthly office hours, you can support us on Patreon. If you support us on Patreon for as little as $5 a month, you'll get an additional bonus weekly episode, as well as access to those monthly office hours. That's patreon.com/justbreakuppod.
You can slide into our DM, send us your favorite relationship meme, but most importantly, you can submit your questions about all matters of the heart at justbreakuppod.com, which is also where you can find our merchandise.
Please remember to like, follow, subscribe, give us a 5-star rating and review. This literally keeps our mics on and helps us reach more brokenhearted souls who need two random strangers giving them relationship advice.
Just Break Up is a production of Duvid Media, original recording, editing, producing, all magical things by our good friend Spencer Worth Davis. Make sure to check out his podcasts and his music. And remember, it's never just about the mac and cheese. And we can be kind to ourselves, be compassionate to ourselves, and let ourselves off the hook from being perfect. We don't need to anticipate everyone's needs in order to be lovable or successful or valuable. And it's all right for us to ask for a little help. And if all else fails,
just break up.